Hello, I'm Peter Towers, Managing Director of ESS BIZTOOLS. Welcome to this members webinar, Client Mentoring and Coaching. I hope that you're having a wonderful day. So let's look at some of the key statistics that apply to relationships with your clients. This material that we have for you under this heading of client relationships and information relates to purchasing or commencing a business. It's a huge area, isn't it? It's an area that a lot of people don't really give enough due care and consideration to. They just decide on Friday night they've had enough of working for a boss and they go out saying they're going to run a business on the Monday or Tuesday. Not enough time. There needs to be more planning and thought about it. I think there needs to be a business plan prepared before they look to buying a business or even starting a business. We talk about introductory management because management's very important. And a lot of the people who start a business may have had no previous management experience when it comes to running a business. Experience management is going a step further relating to the management methodology that's going to be needed in the business. Dealing with banks, very important. And besides the 4 or 5 big banks, there's now 100 odd other smaller banks. And a lot of them are really targeting the SME market. So they can be very good for your clients to understand how they operate. Business planning. Plans are vital for every business. I think a business plan should be prepared for a SME every 12 months because things change so quickly. New ideas come to the fore and they get involved in all sorts of issues. Corporate governance. Not for everyone. If they're going to operate a business as a partnership or as a sole trader, corporate governance is probably not as important. But it most definitely is if your client's going to operate a company or a trust. They should understand it. And it's not a bad idea for the sole traders and partnership people also to have an understanding of corporate governance. Preparation and use of periodic financial accounts, very important. I don't think we should be suggesting to any SME client that they just rely on the annual set of accounts that you might prepare as part of the tax return process. Number one, they're in arrears, and it can be not just 12 months in arrears, it can be 17, 18 months before the client actually receives accounts from the start of the year, 17, 18 months. That's not helping them one iota in how they run their businesses. I think you need to be communicating with them the desirability that they are preparing accounts on a monthly basis. Some of our subscribers won't accept a new client unless they agree that their financial accounts are going to be prepared on a monthly basis and that their firm's going to be entrusted with reviewing those accounts, making sure they're right and producing reports. That costs the client money, and that needs to be factored into the conversation very early with a new client. These are the services that we provide. If you don't like them, go and see someone else. But perhaps you bring into that conversation the high rate of business failure and the high rate of non-performance. If you read some of the reports from the Australian Small Business Ombudsman, you'll notice that based on their information, somewhere between 50%, maybe even as high as 75% of SMEs are just not performing properly. And that information's available in the members area of our website. You'll see on the left-hand column down the bottom, there is a heading, Australian Small Business Ombudsman reports and articles. I suggest you read them. and make them available to your clients, especially new clients. Business networks are very important for people to communicate with others in the same industry. They might be able to organise some benchmarking comparisons whereby they can see how their business lines up against their peers, or just general information about what's going on with suppliers, with training for team members. Exporting is very important, and thousands of SMEs are involved in exporting their activities. There is a significant government grant called the Export Market Development Grant that's administered by Austrade. You need to have some familiarity with these issues so you can communicate to your clients. Because part of this process of client mentoring and coaching is to communicate to your SME clients that you know a lot about financial, commercial matters, and management accounting issues that can help them run better businesses. And I didn't mention the word taxation, because, as I said a little bit earlier, the taxation return does not help them run their business. It's too late. A whole 12 months plus probably another 6 to 8 months has passed before they receive that report. Businesses need to react daily and weekly, and that's the theme that we are promoting within ESS BIZTOOLS. Daily and weekly reports. The monthly financial reports are basically to give confirmation that the weekly estimates have been accurate, because that is what management should be running their businesses on, the daily and weekly information. And that's what the big end of town do, and many, many businesses. And I worked in one. I was the chief financial officer and company secretary of a listed public company. And the whole business was run around a weekly cycle. We had retail shops as well, so the daily figures were very important in them. And there were all sorts of yield figures that came out on a daily basis. We were in the meat industry, and we were operating meatworks, export meatworks, retail butcher shops, small goods factories, byproducts businesses, and each one of them had a weekly performance and profitability report prepared each week. And at the end of the month, we were reconciling those results to what the monthly financial accounts told us. That's what your clients need. That's how big business runs their businesses. And your clients are running a business in competition to some of those big businesses at times. I think we need to install the same system. Prior to the last few years, it was probably very difficult for clients to do that. But with today's technology and today's communications, when everything's working all right, of course, you can communicate with your clients a lot easier and show them how these things work. And incidentally, on that Export Market Development Grant, it's available for any type of entity. It doesn't have to be a company, any type of entity up to a turnover of $20 million. And the claim could be as high as $770,000 over an 8-year period. Marketing. Marketing's important for all business operators, and that's why we've included these notes. You may decide that you're going to recommend your client go and talk to a marketing consultant, but we've put it there so that if you have some knowledge on marketing, you might be able to assist your client. But the assistance may well be that you're referring them on to somewhere else. Family businesses. About 75% of SMEs, according to the Ombudsman, are family businesses. It's very important. And we're going to look in a bit more detail in a moment on family businesses. And getting investment ready. What's that mean? What's it imply? What it means is that most of your clients at some stage are going to need to be looking to raise additional funds. They may be involved in a major research and development project. And my observation is that businesses, companies that are undertaking research and development seem to run out of money, because R&D costs a lot of money. That's why the government enable subsidies to be paid to assist. So where are they going to get some money from? Well, they may want to look at raising capital under early stage innovation company. If they're involved, a young company, that's the company, not the directors, a young company, and they've been involved in innovative activities, they may be looking to try to raise capital. But how do they get ready for that? And they'll need your assistance because they're going to need business plans. They're going to need a vision. They're going to need predictive accounting reports. They need a valuation. What's this business worth? What's the position going to be after they've raised $500,000, $1 million? Or they could go down the crowdsourced funding equity raising path as long as their turnover's under $25 million. They can raise up to $5 million in a 12-month period. But there are rules and regulations on each of these capital raising processes. I believe you should be familiar with those so you can communicate with your clients. And the other one, of course, is Section 708 of the Corporations Act. It's been with us, and its predecessors have been in state legislation, have been with us now for over 40 years to help raising capital. So what else would you like to have us prepare to supplement your presentations to your clients? And this process is also very important because it's communicating to your clients that you have an interest, a desire to assist in a broad range of these commercial activities that they are involved in, not just in taxation. And unfortunately, that is a message we have to keep on saying, maybe in slightly different ways, to SMEs for quite a time to get them to accept it. Because the model that they've seen for the last 40 years in Australia is that accountancy firms basically produce tax returns and an annual set of accounts. Well, we're trying to change that and make them have an understanding that you can do more services than just that. You need to talk about business issues to your clients. This is part of this communication. I think we need to be honest with them about the pitfalls in starting a business. There's a lot of problems. We know that. The failure rate is climbing very high at present. Now, that's been the combination of high interest rates. Thankfully, we had a slight reduction in interest rates the other day. But there could be changes pretty quickly, couldn't there? The world's very volatile at present. So what's your client do about it when that happens? Purchasing a business checklist. I've heard of people just going out and buying a business, ignoring checklists, ignoring any advice, and then they wonder why they get into difficulties. And this has been well illustrated recently by a report that was published in the Financial Review, attributed to the managing director of MYOB, who indicated that they had conducted a survey of 1,000 of their subscribers, and especially the ones who were new to business, and found that a significant number of them had no understanding of how to negotiate with suppliers because they had assumed that they would be automatically granted 30-day payment terms, and then got a rude shock when they went to place their initial order, when they were asked to make a payment equivalent to the value of that order to the supplier before they would process their order. The other big problem that some of those businesses got is that they assumed that they would be paid by their credit customers within 30 days. Now, we know that, unfortunately, Australian small businesses have debtors ledgers with debtors days outstanding significantly higher than 30 days. Indeed, Australia received a very dubious award a few years ago that we had the longest debtors days outstanding in the world. And all the information I've seen recently hasn't convinced me that we've lost that title. I wish we would. I wish we'd never won it. But these people had assumed that everyone would pay them on 30 days. Now, you can imagine if they were caught on both issues, suppliers and then debtors, that it caused a bit of havoc in their cash flow forecasts. I hope that they did have a cash flow forecast, but at times I hope that they never received advice from an accountant, because if they did, they were given bad advice. They obviously didn't understand the need to negotiate with suppliers beforehand and get that agreement in writing with the suppliers. And they needed some guidance on offering credit to people, and then an understanding of what the payment terms might be. Different structures of businesses are very important for people to understand the difference between a sole trader and a partnership, a trust and a company, and the additional duties and responsibilities that come into play once you're a company, because you then got directors and a company secretary, and in a trust because you've got a trustee relationship. Research and development introduction. Thousands of SMEs in Australia undertake research and development each year, and the government supplies a special incentive, the research and development tax rebate. Unfortunately, I find many accountants don't want to get involved in research and development. When I ask them why, they say, "Oh, Peter, I'm not a scientist or an engineer." And I say, "What's that got to do with it?" And they say, "Oh, well, we've got to help our clients do these research activities." I said, "That is not correct. You've got no role to play in the actual research and development activities. That's your client's responsibility. And if they don't know how to do it, they need to go and hire people. Now, the universities, or there are some specialist consultancies around who can do that work. Not your role and responsibilities, but what I think your role could be described as, if you want to put it into a pigeonhole and say that's what I do, is you're the internal auditor. You need to make sure that your client has completed all of the documents that are required. And we have summarised all them within ESS BIZTOOLS product packages. You've got access to them, and they need to complete them. And some of those forms are required every day there's any research activities. If your client wants to claim a cost for that day's activities, it needs to be documented, and it needs to be signed by the person undertaking that research and development activity. I've acted for a couple of very large R&D claims, and I noticed that the team undertaking a lot of the R&D activities were residents of foreign countries. They were, in the main, young people. They might have been doing a gap year working in Australia, or they may have been graduates who were also having, in effect, a gap year before they went into serious business operations. Now, those people all return, or most of them return back to their countries of origin. That's where they live. And they're not going to be around when we have a tax auditor turn up or an Oz industry review team turn up and want to go through the records and processing of the company's R&D claim 3 years earlier. You can't bring them into your office and have them sit there and explain. And that's not the way the law works, as you know, that it all needs to be documented now to substantiate the claim. If you're signing off on the tax return, you need to know that's been done. If you're assisting your client on completing the forms that have to go to Oz Industry before the tax return's lodged, claiming the R&D rebate, you need to know that all the documentation's been properly prepared. So there's a fair bit of operational issues there. Operating as a company, there's a need to understand directors' duties and responsibilities. There's a need to know that there's got to be minutes prepared of various decisions, what the company secretary's role are. This opens up tremendous opportunities to you to offer some training and mentoring in corporate governance, directors' duties, company secretary duties. All that information's available for you to use as a subscriber within ESS BizTools. I know there's an Institute of Company Directors, and I'm a fellow of that organisation, and I've undertaken and passed the course. But many of your clients won't want to do that. They need, though, an overview, an SME overview on the duties and responsibilities of a company director. They're available within our material. You can sit down and spend 3 or 4 hours over a period training a client and bill them for that work. It'd be a lot cheaper than going to the Institute of Company Directors diploma course, which costs a lot more money than that. So self-analysis is very important, I think, when you're talking to people proposing to go into business. And you need to stress to them operating a small business is not easy. Unfortunately, I've come across people and I've heard stories of people who've worked for 35, 40 years in a big company or in a government department who decide they're going to go and buy a food shop or a small goods business or whatever. They've got no past history at all. They've been sitting in offices for years and suddenly they're going into a retail business which requires staff to stand on their feet for a long time each day. It can be very tiring. So that's why I've got there, they need to be physically fit to undertake these roles and to think about it. And they need to be mentally sharp. It's not a 38-hour week in most SMEs. There's normally night work, even if it's doing the books or reviewing a marketing strategy or planning. So at 10 and 11 o'clock at night, they're still sitting around doing things, but they've got to be back to open the business at 7 a.m. tomorrow morning. So they need to think about that. And weekends might not be the sacred 2 days off. There may be a need to trade on weekends. A lot of small businesses have to trade on weekends. You need a plan. This is what you should be saying to your clients before you sign a contract. And you need a financial interpretation of the business plan. That's the budgets and cash flow forecasts. This is what it's going to look like in financial terms. You are going to run out of money in 3 months' time because of the need to make payments to the tax office on that regular basis. So you need to be sitting down and talking to them. If they're operating a company, they need to understand directors' duties and company secretary. I've already referred to that. And understanding corporate governance is very beneficial. You've got all that material within ESS BizTools. Please use it with your clients. Generate fee income for yourself. So we're now going to go to our website where I'm going to bring up the page. So I've done that and I've just got to so the website should now be there, and we're going to client mentoring and coaching. Incidentally, I've talked about the Ombudsman. Here's, if you want any information on the Ombudsman, if you just go there and click there, we've got material there that the Ombudsman's published, which will give you access to information. And incidentally, if you haven't noticed this, in the members section, we have also got members webinars, price webinars. You can just click on there and find them. We've got some training podcasts, some training videos that are all available. But we're now going to go to client mentoring and coaching. And here's the material on client mentoring and coaching. You can watch another video there if you wish. And we're going to download the content. So here's the full list now of what's included. I've gone through that and showed that to you of what's involved in the overall documentation. I mentioned family businesses before. I'm just going to bring family businesses up. And within family businesses, we've got 8 series. And if you have a look at the overall summary first, well, we'll bring that up. And I'm just going to move it back over onto the screen so that you can see it. So this is the procedure form relating to family businesses. So there's one of these for each of the 12 programs. So what we're saying is family businesses are affected by a number of unique problems. These papers concentrate on family business and succession issues. You will find them of assistance in raising many personal issues with the operators of family businesses. It's recommended these papers be distributed and discussed with all family business operator clients. So this is not a form that you're going to send to your clients, but it's giving you a process that you can work through. So at the end of the interview, so you've had an interview and you're talking to someone that's either running or proposing to run a family business, we're suggesting you had the first mail out. So you noticed before I come onto this, we had 8 mail outs. Well, this is where we're discussing what you might do, 7 mail outs, sorry. So when we make the first one out, we're sending various material with it. And there's a survey form with each mail out, because it's very important that you get the feedback from your client as to what they think of this material. They say it was fantastic. Do they understand what's going on? Or are they looking for more information? They may say, oh, yeah, that's good. I generally knew that, but what about such and such? And if you get those sort of requests, please send them through to me, because I can update our material. That's what we do all the time. And we rely to a large extent on our subscribers saying, hey, Pete, why don't you put this into it? Or if someone asked us this question, can we have that covered? We'll gladly do that. So then a week later, now it's up to you. If you think this client's going to dwell on some of these things, or you know the client's very busy, you might say, okay, we're only going to send this every 2 weeks. That's all right. Just send it every 2 weeks or even 3 weeks. I think anything longer than 3 weeks is probably going too far out, because you need to try to get them in the zone to be working through these issues with you so that they get a far better appreciation, in this case, of family businesses. And hopefully they're going to be coming back asking you some questions and making comments. So that's the material contained within that area. I'm just going to move on from there. And then we've now returned back to the categories. So introduction to family businesses. So what we're sending them is a letter. Family Business, Series 1, Introduction. Now you can edit this if you like. This is the letter. You don't have to send out everything. And you'll notice it's got no mention of ESS BizTools on any of this. This is an email or a letter coming from you to your client or to your prospect, whichever way you want to look at it. I think you would already have these people as clients. Family businesses are affected by a number of unique problems. We would like to send you, so we say the same thing. We're going to send them some papers. We're going to forward them progressively over the next 8 weeks. Now, if you're going to make it every fortnight, you'd change that. You're going to edit any of this material. So you change that to 16 weeks. And we're going to give them a paper, Family Businesses, what are they, and making them work. If you've got any queries on any of these matters, please contact us. Now, I think you should, as part of this, be contacting your client. Now, it's up to you whether you're charging them for this or not. If you just want to communicate with them that gives them a better appreciation of the work you do, you may not charge, but you are in business and you need to be aware that all this is helping your clients run a better business in what they're doing. So then let's go into the Family Business Series 1. This is the survey form that we're asking them to complete. I've just got to move it back onto your screen, on my other screen. So there's the survey form. Now, we should be following up. Please get someone to ring the client a few, perhaps 4 or 5 days after you've sent the material out and say, did you get it? What do you think? And can you please complete the survey form, because it's important. Do you believe these papers will help you in the development of your business? Please rate 1 if it's very helpful, or 5 if it's least helpful. And the same with family businesses, making them work. What other topics would you like covered in this material? Sometimes you get some good leads, and if they're not subjects that we've listed in this program, please send them to me, and I'll look at it and we'll write something and add it to the package. Would you like an appointment to discuss any aspect of family businesses with us? This is all part of a promotional campaign to inform your client on the services you can offer. So if they say yes, we'll make sure someone follows up. And if they want to make any other suggestions, you've got it. Get the form, make sure the team involved with this client looks at it, says, great, I think it's wonderful. And they want some more services. They want to have an appointment with us. So you can see what's happening. And then let's look at the paper. Now, these papers are involved in the system that you've got, and I'll just transfer this back across also. So family businesses, what are they? Now, you can take our branding off there and put your own name on it. Some people don't bother, but it's up to you. Family businesses in Australia. So this is just giving them some feedback to start with. There's going to be probably the best part of 15, 16 articles given to them over the 8 mail-outs. This is the opening one. What's family business in Australia? Well, 70% of the 2.1 million businesses are considered to be family businesses. Some are members of the Institute of Company Directors. Some family businesses grow very big. What's a family business? So it's just giving them an opening statement, the opening foundation, if you like, of what family businesses are about. Now, with all of our material, please make sure whoever's dealing directly with the client has read this before it goes out, so that if the client picks up the phone and rings you, you know what they're talking about, what you've sent them. I have struck various things, primarily to do with Business Plus, the newsletter we write each month, that at times people send that out, don't read it, and then wonder why they're getting phone calls from some of their clients who are wanting to get more information about Export Market Development Grant. That was the particular issue that caused some bit of issues a few years ago. The accountancy firm had not read the material. They just mailed it out, and then they got phone calls from people. They didn't know a couple of the people were actually planning to export. They hadn't told them, but they were very interested in getting that grant. So we're talking about where family businesses differ. They need to face up to some of these things. So that's that paper, which hopefully will help. And then we got another one. Okay, we'll bring it back across. Family businesses, making them work. Can be a challenge in family businesses. You'd know that from the clients you've already got, I'm sure. And hopefully some of this material will help you to have conversations with your clients. This is a longer paper, as you can see. But it's going through and looking, let's look at what's in this agenda: planning, management process, procedures, keys to success, performance data and information, job descriptions, training, professionalizing the family business. Businesses need steady management, communications, the concept of a family council, goodwill in a family business, death audits, Management not satisfactory. Team members in family businesses. Enthusiasm. Managing the business. Balance between owners and managers. Outside experience. Problems that can affect the business. Who's going to do it? Problems in handing over control. Handing over control. Family businesses working. There's a lot of issues there, isn't there? And that's the material for the first mail out. So the client gets that. They get the survey form. Hopefully they read those 2 papers and they come back and give you their feedback. Did that help them? And if they start giving you 5s, please let me know, because 5's the least helpful. That means we need to go back and revisit our papers or how we explain things. So hopefully that will give you a great appreciation of what we are doing on this processing. I'm just moving those couple of items back across, and I'll just close them down. So that's the introduction to family businesses, and if we left that, we would then be able to look at then moving on and evaluating the other questions. Please go through the material. If you have any questions or suggestions or comments, please don't hesitate to contact us. Thank you for being a subscriber member of ESS BIZTOOLS. I look forward to being able to talk to you on various subjects over the year. Thank you. Goodbye.